Exercise 40 now, page 81. Let's rearrange a slightly more awkward formula for x. Y equals lambda. This symbol here is lambda, usually used to represent wavelength in the wave equation or in wave mechanics. So times x minus d over d. Rearrange to get x on its own. So let's have a go at this. If you look at the textbook, you can see there's two possible answers. So that probably means there's going to be two possible ways to go about it. And then we need to show at the end that actually those answers are the same. So let's have a look. So I want to get x on its own. So if we look at the right-hand side, and what's happened to x, it's inside a bracket. So then that bracket has been multiplied by lambda and divided by d. So I want to get rid of the d and get rid of the lambda. So it's up to you which way you do it, but I would first of all multiply by d and then divide by lambda. So you could pause here and have a go and see if you can finish it from there. I'll have a go at it myself. So multiplying by d, yd equals lambda x minus d. Now dividing both sides by lambda, yd over lambda equals x minus d. And now finally, to get x on its own, I add d to both sides. So we get yd over lambda plus d equals x. Which is one of the solutions in the textbook. Now let's have a look at the other way of going about it. So this time, well, let's first of all again multiply both sides by d. So we get yd equals lambda x minus d. At this stage, we could decide to multiply out the brackets. So yd equals lambda x minus lambda d. Remember, we're after getting x on its own. So see if you can now complete that by getting x on its own, and then look at the two solutions and see if you can show that they are the same. So carrying on, I would add lambda d to both sides. So yd plus lambda d equals lambda x. And then I divide both sides by lambda and rewrite it with x on the left-hand side. So x equals yd plus lambda d over lambda. Looking at the top, we can see that in fact d is common to both, so that could come outside a bracket. So we can factorize, in other words, take d outside the bracket, leaving y plus lambda over lambda. Dividing by lambda is the same as multiplying by 1 over lambda, so I could rewrite that as d over lambda times y plus lambda, which is the answer in the textbook. From here, at this stage here, then we could actually say that at this point x equals yd over lambda plus lambda d over lambda. We can split that fraction and divide each part both over lambda. Now you can see that the second term on the right hand side, in there we can see that the lambdas cancel out. So leave just d, and that's the first form of the solution. So you can see that they give the same solution. Again, it doesn't matter which way you write the solution, whether or not you write the solution like this, whether or not you write the solution like this, or whether or not you write the solution like this. They are the same answer. The importance, though, is that you can see that they are the same. Okay, it's an extension activity now on this particular question. Let's go back to that original formula and rearrange for lambda. Get lambda on its own. I will go through the solution in a second and you'll see it on the printed handouts. And then when you've done that, slightly more difficult possibly, get d on its own. Maybe a bit more difficult because of course d appears twice in the front formula. But using factorization we should be able to get d on its own. So try these two. Try rearranging the formula for lambda and then rearranging it for d, and I'll go through the solutions. Again, at any stage you can pause it. So in this one, to get lambda on its own, I've multiplied both sides by d. And now, to get lambda on its own, I would divide both sides by that whole term, x minus d. So yd divided by x minus d equals lambda. Because lambda has been multiplied by that whole term, divide by it. So rearrange lambda equals yd over x minus d. The second one, rearranging for d, well, the idea here, again, is to get rid of the denominator on the right-hand side by multiplying by d, then multiply out the bracket on the right-hand side and collect together all terms involving d so you can factorize. So try that and see how you get on. Here's the solution. Multiply both sides by d. Now multiply out the bracket on the right-hand side. Now I want all terms involving d on the same side. So I've got minus lambda d on the right-hand side, so add that term to both sides to get all the d's on the same side. And we get yd plus lambda d equals lambda x. Now if we look at the left-hand side, d occurs in both terms. So d being common to both, we can take that outside a bracket. In other words, we can factorize. What have I got to times d by to get back to yd? Y. And what have I got to times d by to get lambda d? Lambda. So we get that. Now d has been multiplied effectively by y plus lambda. So divide both sides by y plus lambda and we get d. If you got that out, well done.